So how did you come to the Gregg?
I hope you're ready for some long stories. When I was 18 years old, I'd had a bad first semester as a freshman in college, and had failed a couple of classes, and didn't want to go home at Christmas to face my dad. So I went on this long camping trip, hitchhiking on the Outer Banks. And during that trip, I was picked up by someone whose grandmother turned out to be an outsider artist.
Oh, wow.
This was several years before the term outsider art was even coined or anything like that. It was raining, and he dropped me off at his grandmother's house to dry off. And when I went into the house, I just saw the most amazing thing I'd ever seen, which was her name was Annie Hooper, and she had filled her house with 3,000, about 3,500 concrete and driftwood sculptures that she'd made.
Wow.
And that eventually led to my whole career in a way, because when I got back to campus, I started trying to tell people about it, what I'd seen there. And people found it a little hard to envision what 3,500 sculptures looks like when crammed into a house. So at Easter, I went back out with a camera this time and took photographs of it. And it's really hard to envision without photos. But once I started showing the photos to people, it would trigger something in their own memories, and they would say, "Oh yeah, there's a guy like that in the town just below us." I just began visiting people like that just for fun. I mean, I just thought it was interesting. It wasn't a formal project or anything like that, but I just thought it was just a fun thing to do on a weekend. And gradually, over time, I accumulated photographs of several hundred of these people, and word of that got to the North Carolina Museum of Art, and they eventually invited me to curate a show on outsider art in North Carolina called Signs and Wonders, and that was in the mid-'80s. Shortly after that, the woman I had met first, Annie Hooper, passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And her son called me up and said, "I've got some bad news." And I said, "Yeah, I can imagine what it is." And he said, "Yeah, Mother passed away. She left it all up to you to decide what to do with it."
Wow.
And that's what I said. I said, "Wow." I said, "Oh my God." I started looking for a place to put it. I knew I couldn't keep it in my house. Eventually I found Charlotte Wainwright, but she was my predecessor here at the Gregg. And this was in the late 80s. I approached her. She was at that time just trying to build up the collection, NC State's collection, what's now become the Gregg collection. And for some reason, I said, "I found this outsider artist and the work needs a home." And she said, "Sure." Now, I don't know that she quite understood what she was agreeing to. It ended up being an 18-wheeler load of art. And we don't do that anymore. We don't accept Back then, Charlotte went for it, and then she asked me if I would curate a show of that work, and we did an international symposium, and that went so well that she asked me if I would like to curate some other shows. For 4 years, I was the sort of guest curator for the Gregg, and then I went overseas for about 9 years, lived in France. And when I got back, Charlotte was approaching retirement age, and she encouraged me to apply for her job when she retired. And I did. Much to my surprise, they gave it to me. So that's how I became the director of the Gregg. It's perfectly true that I owe it all to a hitchhiking ride, that I got picked up by the right person at the right time. And it basically, at the age of 18, kind of set my life on a different course. Who knew?